Who doesn't love fresh fruit? It's sweet, juicy, and healthy, right? But not necessarily, because the fruits that you're eating every day come with a nasty surprise, something not so tasty, like pesticides and fungicides that are impacting your health in ways that you've never expected. In this video, I'm going to share with you the top fruits that contain many chemicals in them that the EPA, for some reason, never wants to tell you about. So stick around to the end because I'm going to share with you how to not have chemicals in your fruit and how to make better choices. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski. As always, it's a pleasure hanging out with you in today's video. If you love natural health content, if you want to stay on the razor's edge of natural health, I actually have a community I created just for you called Health Club. In Health Club, I keep you on the razor's edge of natural health, teaching you clinical tips and tools that I use every single day in order to get people well. Click on the link in the description below and you'll get access to Health Club. Now, we first have to identify the culprits, which fruits have the most pesticides and fungicides in them, which leads us to the environmental working group known as the EWG. Every year they publish a list, and in this list, they are going to share with us which fruits have been tested for many pesticides and many fungicides on them and within them. Now, the top fruits that you have to be aware of are strawberries. Strawberries are heavily sprayed with a fungicide called Captan. It's spelled C-A-P-T-A-N. And this is linked to having a potential cancer risk. Then we look at apples, and apples are covered with organophosphates, which can disrupt your hormones. We have grapes, and yes, even the ones in the fruit salad that you love so much, they have multiple pesticides that can affect your liver and your nervous system. And then we're looking at cherries next on our list, a tiny fruit, but it has a huge chemical load. Unfortunately, also covered with organophosphates that will impact your brain over time. We have peaches, fuzzy on the outside, but full of chemicals on the inside. And then pears, which are going to be loaded with pesticides that can affect the thyroid and also cause hormone imbalance. Now, of these fruits, these are the worst. Now, when regulators consider these fruits, one of the things they do is they test each ingredient, each pesticide, each fungicide one at a time on the human body. But what they fail to realize is that if you're someone who eats fruits regularly, you're not only going to come in contact with many of these pesticides and fungicides, but you're also going to get a dose of it daily. In fact, there was a study, an animal study, and what they showed is that exposure to a mixture of pesticides can be more toxic than one pesticide at a time. Now, when we look at what these pesticides will do to your body, there's a few concerns in particular. And these concerns, I think, should actually be looked at seriously because every day I take care of patients who are very sick and they don't understand why. Many people are struggling with health conditions and they don't understand why. They're trying to make good choices, consciously eat better, but yet even though they're doing this, they're still struggling with their health. And unfortunately, I think that our food supply is far worse for us than we even realize. Because when we look at these chemicals, the pesticides and fungicides, which are found on fruit and vegetables, you're going to find that they can cause hormone disruption. Some pesticides mimic or block natural hormones, throwing off the natural balance of the thyroid or the reproductive system. There's also the concern of neurotoxicity. Chemicals like chlorpyrifos can interfere with brain development in kids and even affect the memory in older adults. And as a matter of fact, one of the ways that these chemicals actually will kill many bugs is they will do so by attacking their nervous system. So it only makes sense as a biological creature from one to another that it would actually have an impact on our nervous system as well. You're also going to find the issue of immune suppression and your body becoming less capable of fighting infections. And then, of course, there's the cancer risk. Long-term exposure of certain fungicides like the Captan, as I mentioned earlier, has been linked to the increased risk of cancer in many lab studies. And one of the big troubles that we have when we take all these chemicals into consideration is that not only is there a mixture of many chemicals, and I didn't list them all because quite frankly, they're very difficult names to say, and it's very boring to review them all with you. The important part that you need to understand today is the big picture. So when you mix all these chemicals together, and then you microdose them day after day. As a small child all the way into adulthood, one of the problems that you have is that these chemicals will build up in your system, eventually causing problems. And though there's many naysayers out there saying it's completely fine, it's completely healthy, there's no proof of this. The truth is, if you just use some common sense, it's very well understood that microdosing of poison every single day cannot possibly be healthy for the body. And in fact, not healthy for the liver. And your body, though having the ability to detox cannot remove all of the chemical exposure that it comes into contact with every day through the foods that you're eating, the clothing that you're wearing, the chemicals in your home, the workplace, and so much more. So the key is with this subject is not to freak out, but to actually make better choices. One of the things that certainly is proven is that organic fruits and vegetables have far less chemical exposure to them than those that are non-organic. So whenever possible, you of course can make sure that you're buying organic. In order to actually save money, one of the things you can do is focus on buying berries that are frozen and organic. This way, when you're making smoothies, you can save some money and still eat good, healthy berries. And of course, their antioxidant and nutrient quality is just as good even though they were frozen. Another consideration to make is make sure that you're always cleaning your fruits and vegetables. One of the things that we always do in my home when we get fruits and vegetables is we bring them home and we fill the sink full of water, put some apple cider vinegar in there, and let them soak. This is a good way to actually break down some of the chemicals and get them off of it. However, it's important to realize that many of these chemicals just aren't on the outer layer of the fruit and vegetable. It is actually within them. There's actually studies that show with strawberries that when you actually take the strawberry juice from the strawberry and test it, the juice actually contains chemicals. And so this is why it can be very beneficial to buy organic or even buy organic frozen berries. Another thing to take into consideration is that the fruits that you're going to be eating, and you're eating the outer layer, such as the skin, like many of the ones that I mentioned, such as pears, strawberries, cherries, apples, peaches, it's important to make sure that you're putting an extra focus on buying these ones organic or even buying them from a local farmer who isn't using pesticides and fungicides on these particular fruits. Because the ones that you're eating the skin, you're more likely to get an exposure from versus things such as bananas or oranges where you're actually taking a peel off and then eating the fruit. It's important to identify ways that we can constantly improve our overall health and well-being through better food choices. And though fruits are very healthy, I think that the pesticide and fungicide exposure that we're coming into contact with on a daily basis is far worse for our health than we even realize. One of the major issues that we're facing today in healthcare is the dramatic rise in colon cancer. One of the reasons I believe that colon cancer is dramatically on the rise is because the amount of chemicals that your colon has to deal with on an everyday basis that it was never designed to deal with. Our body was not designed to deal with pesticide and fungicide exposure every single day of our lives. It's too much, it's overwhelming, it's causing all types of gastrointestinal issues, ultimately probably leading to colon cancer. Though some of these things aren't quote unquote identified in the science, it's pretty common sense that this stuff is not good for us and should be avoided at all costs. We have science that does show us that these different pesticides and fungicides are clearly bad for us and linked to cancer, and yet there are many naysayers saying it's completely fine because the evidence isn't clear enough. You have to make a choice when it comes to your health on how you want to eat, how you want to perform, and ultimately how you want to protect your own body. These are choices I make in my own home to make sure that we are not exposing not only ourselves, but our children to chemicals. We do the best we can with what we have to work with, and that's what I suggest you do too. I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one right here next.